Welcome to day two, part two. I hope you are just excited as I am to jump into the second part. So now that you have the foundation underway, you know where to begin, you know how things are going to play out, how we're going to start exceeding, and we're going to start just laying out all the pieces one by one so that at the end of watching this course, going through the material, please don't skip any steps. Stay in tune so that you can put everything together. Now, by all means, come back at each part if you forgot a part and retake notes, rewatch it, and relearn it. And we are going to move on to creating the sale, the expenses, and projections. Now, this is so important, this part, because a lot of times you want to just jump into which we'll get into later, the marketing material, and start putting it out there. But when we work together, this is the critical part. So when you present the information, it has to be presented in a right way that's going to make sense. And this is what I mean. This critical part right here is a part of we can't pull a rabbit out of the hat anymore. This is the part that's so important that every part after this do not matter if this part is not executed correctly. So, here's what we're going to discuss. We are going to discuss what services you should provide. We're going to talk about what discounts to offer and the expenses included. So, not just creating the offer and making it sound nice, but what expenses are going to be involved in that offer. We're going to talk about creating a win for both sides. Now, a lot of times we want to create a win and want to make sure it's good enough and the client's going to take advantage of it, but it's not necessarily a win for us. So we want to create a win for both sides. And last, we're going to talk about profit projections. Now, if the profit is not there, wholeheartedly 100%, it's a no. If you cannot craft something together and still make money out of it, it's not a good business move at all. You do not see any other big box retailer putting together some type of promotion that they want to have, and there's nothing in it for them. There's no profit in there at all. Even when you go to the stores and things are on clearance and they're trying to get rid of it, they may be getting rid of it at such a discounted rate that there's still a profit that these stores plan on making. And I want you to put yourself in the position of these big box stores. It doesn't matter that you're in the beauty industry at all. What matters is that you're in the business of doing business. That's all that matters. So let's get ready. I hope you got pen. I hope you got paper. We're going to jump in and we're going to write down our services that we're going to provide. We're going to put everything in detail. We're going to make sure that everything makes sense to you. So the first thing we're going to start with is the actual service options. So picking the service, your hands are priceless. I do not want you to be working hard trying to create this sale or provide the number of people that you need to provide services for. Your hands are priceless. We need these in order to continue to make money. It does not matter what service you're providing, whether you're providing a nail service, a massage service, a barber service, regardless. Your hands are priceless. And I want you to consider that at each point when we're creating these promotions for you to continuously run. So here's what you must consider when it comes to gathering this service. You must consider first that timing is of the essence. It takes time to provide each service. It takes time to provide a deep conditioner. They have to sit, they have to process. That's a part of your time. You may be detangling some hair. That's a part of your time. It may require you to set up a steam machine to put the distilled water in there or whatever type of water you're using, this still is requiring your time. So timing is of the essence. Another thing to consider is do not bundle more than 3 services. Now, I see this a lot. And a little bit later, we'll discuss why you don't want to bundle more than 3 services. So do not bundle no more than 3 services. Also, make sure that your team is on board. If this is in a salon event that you want to have for the holidays, of course, you have to make sure that everyone is on board with this. This is why you don't want to provide more than 3 services. And when you come up with this whole strategy, everyone has to be on one accord. Everybody has to agree with this holiday, explosion that you're about to run. So you have to get your team involved and make sure that your team is on board with providing this. Another thing to remember and to consider is to do not offer a new client service. So if you already have a new client special that you're running for new clients to come and take advantage of, whatever you're crafting for the holiday explosion, you do not want it to be one of your new client services. This is completely separate, something different. Don't confuse the two and don't combine the two. However, if it's a piece of the service for the new client that you want to take and put in this holiday service, you can. So, for example, if you have a wash and style or something like that as a new client special, and you want to take that wash and style and add on 2 other services and create this holiday offer, you can. But just make sure that the two do not collide together. You don't want them to be the same. You still want to continuously run this new client service, however you have that. But this holiday explosion that we're working on right now is separate and completely different from your new client service. Now, let's talk about choosing these services. So here's a list of some services that I've combined together to give you an idea of what I mean by no more than 3 services. So our first one we have is a relaxer, a steam treatment, and a style. These can be combined together. Another thing I want you to consider also is to consider the services that can go together. So there's a quick weave bob, cut, and style with a purchase. So here's a promotion that you can do that's tied to a purchase. So if you are selling hair extensions, units, or things like that, then if they make that purchase, they can take advantage of this promotion, but it has to be with that purchase. Now, you can do it without the purchase if you're not selling hair as your retail. But however, you can make it even sweeter if they make a purchase. Something else you could combine together is a silk press, treatment and cut, accent highlights, cut and style, dip gel nails, a pedicure and brow wax. Men's grooming, you can consider a haircut, a beard and facial. For a deep tissue massage and facials. So as a spa, you can do deep tissue massage and a facial. This is 2 options. Now, the reason why I only picked 2 options here for spa options is once you do a nice deep tissue massage, you can provide that facial. I don't recommend you provide a 3rd service here unless it's something else that's really quick. But you're going for your most expensive service, a deep tissue, something a little bit more advanced than your regular massage. And it's massaging is dealing with the body. You can separate the face and include the facial in there. So this is an example for a spa. And our last service is a lock maintenance, oil treatment, and style. So if you go back through the list, do you see how I only combined 3 services together? You don't want to overwork yourself and you don't want to overwhelm the guests with too many services being provided together. So a relaxer, steam treatment, and style is something that can be easily said. It can also be easily done. When you do the relaxer probably don't include the style, which I don't recommend you include a fancier style with that. It does not include a steam treatment. It includes probably a regular conditioning at the sink. So this is creating an upgraded, a luxury service when you're combining 3 things together. You have a silk press, a treatment. Typically, a treatment is going to make that silk press come out even better. And a haircut, because of course, whenever you silk someone's hair out, those ends look horrible. So you provide a haircut. When it comes to the dip gel nails, I'm sorry, you can provide that's a nail. You provide a pedicure, a basic pedicure. We're not including a spa pedicure, a regular pedicure, and a brow wax. Now, for your brow wax, it's basically can be a cleanup, not necessarily a full brow mapping service when you're taking someone who've never had their brows done before and you're providing a reshaping and all of that. So we're going for our basic tier services and we're combining them together to create a more luxury experience. For the men's grooming, you're including a haircut and a beard trim, which you probably already do, but let's add in a facial, let's add in a steam treatment. One more level up. Now, let's discuss the reason why I combine these together. However, let me choose a service real fast. And of course, my specialty is color. So, of course, I chose accent highlights, cut, and style. Combine three services that you like, what you like doing, get together with your team and discuss what everyone loves to do together. And that's the package that you come up with. So if your entire salon team aren't colorists, some of them don't like to color, then I don't recommend you choose this package. However, let's back up a quick moment. Let's say you are a natural salon and your entire team do a lot of silk press. You can choose the silk press treatment and cut package as a salon package. Everyone is on one accord with that. But let's say you do have some in there that don't do silk press, they don't do natural hair, and they do extensions. So you can have two separate promotions running at the same time. You can have one for a silk press and you can have one for the quick weave bob. So you can have two running together. However, to take advantage of it to the fullest, I recommend you just choosing one so that everyone is on one accord and the guests can have a wonderful experience with one opportunity. So, as I mentioned, my specialty is color. So, we're going to go with the accent, highlights, cut, and style. Now, moving forward, everything we do in design is going to be based off of this service. So, you'll hear me mention this service a lot. As you lay this out, you're going to implement it with your service. Everything I teach you moving forward is just going to have the service that you choose here. So, now what discounts to offer and the expenses included. Let me repeat that again. We already chosen our service. So what discount to offer? My apologies. So what discount to offer and the expenses included? This is the next huge step in creating this holiday explosion because now we have the service that we want to do, but what discount are you going to offer? And the expenses. Remember, time is money. Let's discuss the breakdown of our pricing, timing, the discount, and our end costs. So first of all, let's start with the pricing. Now, just for the sake of this training, I use whole numbers. You, however, are going to input your actual real numbers. I just like to use whole numbers because it makes it easier to explain it so you can visually see it. And when you're inputting your numbers, of course, you're going to end up with different numbers, but I want you to understand the results. So let's take, for example, the accent highlights actually cost $50. A haircut is $50 as well, and a style is $50. This brings us to a total of $150 for this service without any discounts. Now let's talk about timing. Timing is of the essence. You already know that. And when it comes to doing certain services, timing is extremely important. So accent highlights timing. Accent highlights is usually a couple of foils, is not a lot, and it should take about 10 minutes to put the foils in. Processing time can take up to 45 minutes depending on what type of hair and what are you trying to achieve. Also, if you have to do toning or whatever you have to do. So, processing time, let's just say that's 45 minutes. 10 minutes to put the foils in, 45 minutes processing. Now, a haircut, depending on what type of haircut you're doing, can take anywhere between 15 and 25 minutes max. A style can take anywhere from 30. Excuse me. A style can take anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. And once again, this depends on what type of style you're adding onto the package. So for a total of 2 hours and 30 minutes for the amount of $150, you will provide accent highlights, cut, and style. This is also an example of how to create your pricing scale as well. But however, that's another course. So let's move on to discounts. So I created 3 offers because I want you to understand when you're adding the discount, how to understand the end cost as well. So our second box down here where it says discounts at, offer 1 will be $10 off. If we take this example service of accent highlights, cut, and style, that costs $150 and takes us $230, 2 hours, 2 hours and 30 minutes to complete. If we offer $10 off, the end cost will be $140 for this service. Now, if we take this exact same service and offer 20% off, it gives us an end cost of $120. If we take this exact same offer, number 3, and discount it at half off, that makes the offer becoming $75. So let's reverse this a little bit and talk about, would you actually provide a service of accent highlights, cut, and style for our first offer of $140? Would you provide this same service, accent highlights, cut, and style, for $120? Now, would you provide this service, accent highlights, cut, and style, for $75? So when it comes to laying out the service, you include the pricing, the original pricing, the timing, and the end costs. And these are the questions that you have to ask yourself so that when you're formulating this bright idea you have of this explosive sale you want to provide, you have to make sure that it makes sense. So once you kind of understand a little bit about whether it makes sense or not, you have to create a win for both sides. This is why it's so important when you're looking at the sale that you want to provide. Like, does this sale make me feel like I'm going to work like a slave and my client is going to receive all of the benefits? Or would this offer be that it's not really a benefit, a discount to the client because it really doesn't matter? These are the questionable things that you get when you're compiling what service that you want to provide. This is why it's so important to do this step first. So let's say you did take half off and you go ahead on and create your marketing material, you present it to the team, and it's a horrible offer. You put in all of this work to create something that no one wants to take part in, that you feel like a slave as style is working to provide this service, and yet the client is like, oh my God, this is wonderful. I'm coming. I'm bringing my mom. I'm bringing my aunt. My cousin is coming. Everybody's going to take advantage of it. And now you're doing 40 people at $75 a piece, as opposed to doing 10 people at $140 a piece. The idea is to craft a sale so that it's a win for both sides, and yet you are still working smart and not hard. So here's what you must consider. You must consider that time is of the essence. Remember that service took 2 hours and 30 minutes. You also have to ask yourself, what's my minimum value offer? What is the least amount Are you willing to get paid for 2 hours and 30 minutes? Another thing, you have to make sure that your team is on board. If you provide half off services, you have to make sure that your team is willing to provide those same services also. So it's not just about you, it's about the entire team. If everyone is not on board, then that's a service that you cannot provide. At the end of the day, it's going to cause confusion and conflict inside of the salon. Also, is that a deal for my guests? So if it's 100% deal for the guests and not a win for you, then that's something that you cannot provide. So there's no way that half off deal would work. There's no way I'm going to spend 2 hours and 30 minutes for $75. It just doesn't work for me. It's not going to work out well. So projection profits. This is something that we all have to really consider. When you're offering these sales, what is your projection profit like? What is it that you want to make? So let's take, for example, you are going to do the $75 off. What does the profit projection look like that? How many people do you have to service in order to make a break? Like, we have to consider these things in advance before we push out a sale. So here's an example of the offers broken down. Remember, we have our service, the accent, highlights, cut, and style. It costs $150 and it takes 2 hours and 30 minutes. Offer number 1 was $10 off. That's a total of $140. Offer number 2 was 20% off for a total of $120. And offer number 3, actually they all say offer number 1. I apologize for that. So offer number 3 is actually half off. And at half off, it's $75. Now, the next thing to consider is the fact that here are these offers. Which one is going to benefit both you, the stylist, the client, and the team? Remember, the objective is to create a win for everyone. Not just a win for yourself, not just a win for the client, but a win across the board. So as we're laying out the offers, you really have to look at it and see which one benefits you and which one is going to be most beneficial for the entire team. What you need to consider when constructing these offers is, will my team take part in this offer? And will I still profit? So I want to take you to a separate screen so that I can share with you some actual real raw numbers that's going to work out. So remember, our initial price was $150. If you do 10 people at $150, these are regular prices, will be $1,500. This is the number that we're going to use as the base price. This number right here. This is the number we have to use because we have to know initially, if we do 10 people, we're going to make $1,500. And you use that number to see whether your offer is going to be doable or not. So our next offer, number 1, was $140. If we do 10 people at $140, that's going to give us a total of $1,400. If we do $120 at 10 people once again, that's going to give us a total of $1,200. And if we do our offer number 3, which was our half off offer at 10 people, that's going to give us a total of $750 for servicing those 10 people. Now, here's the adjustment that needs to be made, the thought process that goes into here. If you do the first offer, which was the $10 off, and charge $140. If you do 10 people, that's $1,400, meaning you're going to take a loss of $100 for this offer. For the next offer, you're going to have a loss of $300. And for the final offer, you'll have a loss of $750. I'm sorry, $750. So before you go forth with an offer, you have to know how much are you going to lose at face value. Face value being, if I do it at regular price at 10 people, this is how much it costs. If I take these other totals at 10 people, this is how much it's going to cost, and this is the loss that I'm going to get at that loss. So I want you to be very clear at the numbers and how this loss is going to come about. Actually, let's take it and make it a little bit bigger just so we can see it. Okay, so here's face value numbers. Now, the next thing that I need you to do is to take the same offer and say to yourself, if I do $140, right? If I charge $140 for this offer, how many people do I need to do in order to still make my goal of $150 regular price? So at $140, in order to meet that goal, you need to do at least 11 people. 11 people brings you to a total of $1,540. So you've met that goal. You've exceeded that goal, but you met that goal. If you do 10 people, which we have up here, you're at a loss of $100. So you can't be at a loss. You have to go over the amount, the initial amount. Now, if you do $120, which was our second offer of 20% off, you would have to do 13 people. And at 13 people, you would make $1,560. I hope this is clear on how many people you need to do in order to still meet this initial goal. We don't want anything to change. We still want to make this amount. So if it's initially $150 and you do 10 people, you'll make $1,500. If you decide to go along with offer number 2, it's going to cost $120 for the service, but you have to do 13 people, which isn't bad. It's only 3 more people than you would normally do in order to exceed the goal of $1,500. This is how you create the win and want to make sure that it makes sense. So our second one was half off. At half off at $75, you would need to do 20 people in order to make $1,500. Now, if you're quite not unsure, just go ahead on and do the math and see for yourself. So at $150 times 10 people is $1,500. $150 times 10 equals $1,500. If you do the $75 offer, $75 times 20 people will give you the $1,500. So would you prefer to do 20 people, 13 people, or 11? This is the question that you have to ask yourself, because you still want to make the money, but how many people are you willing to service in order to make that money? Now, in all honesty, of course, we don't want to do more than what we have. I wouldn't mind doing one more person to exceed my initial offer. I don't have a problem with doing that, and I'm pretty sure your entire team would not. That's just one extra person. Anybody can pick that extra person. Or, in order to sweeten a deal for the guests, which is a better price at 20% off, because they'll be saving a little bit more money. than $10, they will actually be saving $30. So if it's initially $150, if you provide the 20% off, it will bring it to $120. They'll be saving $30. But you only have to do 13 people. That's 3 more people. That's 3 more people between you and your team to exceed your 1,500 goal. So in all honesty, the middle offer is the best offer. So the middle offer is the best offer. Let's make that one a little bit bigger, because the middle offer is the best offer when you're looking at which offer is going to be a win for both sides. That's 3 additional people as opposed to 10. You're actually making a little over the $60, but you're paying that $60 is going towards those 3 people, and it's going towards your time. So this is the number breakdown. This is the profit breakdown that you truly have to consider when you're putting together your offer. Where is the win at for both sides? This is the win for the salon. This is the win for the client. The middle win is typically the win for both sides. So I hope I showed you the breakdown and made it a little bit clearer on how to choose which side. You don't want to give the guests a limited, small offer, even though you're excellent at what you do and you want to show your appreciation, but it doesn't feel like a win for them. It's almost like, well, I would have gave you that in a tip anyway. So what's $10 off? I tip you $20 anyhow. If you provide that bigger, discount, then the tips are bigger because it makes them feel as though they're saving money. Also, as a salon, as a stylist, as a barber, as a nail tech, you're like, what's 3 more people? Like 3 more people, if I extend my hours a little bit more, which we'll talk about hours and how to lay out this a little bit later, that's nothing. So I hope the numbers have made clearer sense on which offer you should provide. Okay, so let's go back, right? So now we see the actual number breakdown of the offer. How do you decide? Well, the numbers truly show you how to decide. If you don't do the actual number breakdown and put some actual factual numbers in there, then you'll never be able to truly understand on what's going to benefit me as a salon, as the stylist, or what's going to benefit the client also, sitting in your chair, taking advantage of the holiday explosion that you have going on. So the service, the sale, and the profit. Here's what we've come to today. You have learned that our service that we've chose throughout this entire course is going to be accent highlights, a haircut, and style. We're going to offer it at a 20% off holiday sale. We need to book 13 appointments, which normally 10 appointments would be $1,500 income. We need to book 13 appointments for an income projection of $1,560. And actually, if you would take the normal price off, this is what the profit projection would look like. If you take $1,560 and minus the $1,500, the profit is $60, but yet we're servicing 3 more clients. The real question is this doable? Will this work? Does this make sense? If the answer is yes, we're moving forward in our holiday explosion. So here is the service, here is the sale, here is the profit, and the breakdown. Now, I highly recommend that you pause right here and you decide what your service is going to be. You crunch these numbers and you decide what sale is good for you. Even though we've only inputted 3 types of sale. We use $10, we use 20%, and we use half. You can use any dollar amount, any percentage amount. So if you want to go from $10 to $20, input those numbers with $20. If you wanted to go from 20% to 15% to 25%, input those numbers as well, so that you can see which sale is going to be beneficial for you and your team. So that concludes the end of the day. We're going to pause right here. You're going to go figure out those numbers, and you're going to come back with your actual service that you are going to provide. You're going to write down the sale that you're going to offer, the discount that you're going to offer, and you're going to have your income projections. I will see you in the next training.